All right, let's rock and roll. Our session today is about creating a program that has a scoreboard. And I've got this all set up on, I sent it an email and I've got it set up on Google Classroom. You've got a link to this program called ScoreBoard program, and there's a handout. It's all set up for you, and it has some information that could help you along. But let's take a look at how this works and what you do. If you click the link to the program, either on Google Classroom or in your email or whatever, it'll take you. You may have to hit View Code, and then you'll have to remix it. Right? You have to remix because you can't edit. And I'm going to recommend that you rename, and I'm just going to say done, except I can't spell or type or anything. All right, so I'm going to say done there. And let's see what this does just to begin with. What we've got here is when you run it, there are these falling dots. The green one is a good dot and the red one is the bad dot. And notice that it's already programmed so that if the dots fall off the bottom, they reappear on the top. And so that's taken care of. And also the programming to move the little alien guy to the right or the left is taken care of. That's just done with right and left arrow. If you study up the code a little bit, you'll see all of those parts that are in there for you already. Up here in line 1 through 13, all the sprites are set up, right? The player is the little alien, good is the green dot, bad is the red dot. And then in the draw loop, you'll see that the if good.y is greater than 410, that's if it falls off the bottom of the screen without ever being touched. Then it resets back up the top. It loops back up the top. Same thing with the bad dot. If it falls off the bottom without ever being touched, it goes back up to the top. And then you've got the right and left arrow controls for the player that are right here. Now what we're going to do is we're going to add the idea that if the player touches a green dot, he gets a point, and if he touches a red dot, he loses a life. Green is good, red is bad. So we're going to see all the things that are required to do that. We want to keep track of score, and we want to keep track of lives, and we also want to make those things displayed on the screen. All right, so here we go. I left comments for you. There's a comment at line 15 right here that says create variable for score and lives. All right, well, that's pretty easy. Go over to the variables and use a var x equals. All right, see this? And you're going to need 2 of them. All right, I want you to do, I know you're watching me do it, but if you're watching me, but I want you to do it yourself. So score is going to equal 0 to begin with. And then this other variable I'm going to call lives, and I'm going to put it at 5. You could put it at whatever you want. Your player has a certain number of lives to begin with, and so I'm going to set that at 5, and that's where it's going to start. All right, so that part of it's taken care of. That was really easy. I've established a couple of variables here at line 16 and 17. Score equals 0, lives equals 5. All right, well, let's roll this on down. I put comments in to help guide you along, and I'm just going to add my code right after the comments. At line 42, it says, let's check to see if the player is touching the good dot. The good dot's the green one, and it's called good. If you look at the code up here, you'll notice that the variable, the sprite, is actually called just good. That's its name. Well, let's go to work on that. That's going to be an if, and that's going to be an is touching. We've done this, right? In a previous assignment, we've talked about is touching. All right, and it's going to be if player is touching good. All right, so that's the setup. That's the condition. What do we want to have happen? Well, for one thing, I want a point. If he catches the green dot, I want a point. That's a variable thing, and I'm just going to use the x equals, and that's going to be score equals, and we just increase the value by 1. We go score plus 1. That's all. We've done that before. That's like a counter loop kind of thing. So score equals score plus 1. That's one thing I want to have happen. The other thing that needs to happen is if the player does touch that green dot, it needs to go back up to the top. All right, well, I'll just bring down a sprite.x and a sprite.y because we're going to need to send it back up. And it's called good. It's the green dot. And for the x value, the horizontal value, I want that to be random. All right, so I'm going to drop in a random number that could be anything from 0 to 400. That's for the sideways value. For the y value, I want that to be 0. Just set it back up to the top. So let's look at everything that is happening here if the player is touching the good dot or the green dot. You get a point, score equals score plus 1, and the green dot gets set at a random X value, a random X location. This will have to say good here, all right? And then it also gets reset back up to the top so it can fall again. If you look at the code that's way up before the draw loop, they already have a velocity assigned to them. Actually, it's a random velocity, but they've got a velocity assigned to them. All right, now this is where you can make a decision. Copy and paste could work for you here. You could copy this and then paste it in down here. I think I'll just rebuild it because it's not that hard. But I'm looking down here at line 51, 52. There's a comment here for you that says, let's see if the player is touching the bad dot. That's the red dot. All right, well, it's going to be the same kind of thing. We're going to say if, and we're going to work with is touching. And it's going to be player is touching bad. It's the red dot. And what do we want to have happen? Well, for one thing, I'm going to bring this x equals variable thing, and I want to lose a life. So I'm going to say lives equal lives minus 1. Right? If you were copying and pasting, you could just change it to lives equal lives plus a negative 1. You could probably do it that way, but yeah, I'm just rebuilding it. Also, the whole XY thing, all right? If the red dot has been touched, I want it to go back up to the top. Now, for the X value, like we did before, that's going to be a random number. I want it sometimes to be on the left and sometimes to be on the right, and that's what makes it more fun in the game. And for the Y value, that's just going to be 0. Oops, sorry. All right. So that resets the bad dot back up to the top. Let's just check and see if that much is working. I'm going to run the program, and if I touch these dots, they ought to pop back up to the top, and they are. Look, when I touch them, they just immediately disappear, and they fall down again. They get reset as soon as I touch them. Now, another thing that's happening that you don't even see on the game screen right now is I am getting points and losing lives, but it's not being displayed at all. It's happening. You know, there's the program is keeping track of score and lives, but I'm not seeing it. And that's the last thing we have to do. Down here at line number 60 of the program that I provided for you, it says add commands to display the score. All right. Well, so that's all going to be done in the drawing drawer. And let's think about the things you got to do for text. I'm going to drop this in. I'm going to say I'm just going to use a fill color of black for my letters. And I will use a text size of, I'm going to say 30. I'll try that. We'll see if I like it. And I'm going to reset this button over here so that's not distracting. Font, you know, do you want to do something font-wise? I think I'll do the old mono space font. Okay, cool. What else? Now we need to make it say something, right? This is for the color and the size and the style, the font style. Now it needs to say something. Now I got a trick for you here. Watch this little trick. I'm going to bring over this text block that just says string str, right? And now this confuses some people, but not everybody. I'm going to go to the math drawer and I'm going to stick in a plus block right there. All right, look at what I did. I put a plus block in that hole. In the first half of that plus block, I'm going to use quotation marks like that. Look at it. If you use quotation marks, exactly what is inside the quotation marks is what will be displayed on your game screen. So if, like, I made a spelling error, my spelling error would show up. Over in the other half of the plus block, I'm just going to put the variable. Remember up here at the top, I have a variable called score, and it's equal to 0 at the beginning. All right, so this will display two things for me. It'll put the word score, and then it will actually put the value of what is the score. You know, it'll put that number there. Here is just the X and the Y, so I'm going to go over about 50 and down about 30. I'm going to try that. All right, so let's just take a look at what that does. This would be if I touch green dots. Nothing's happening for the red dots yet. You don't see anything happening. But look, it's working. Look, it's working. Right when I touch those green dots, I'm getting a point. I have a scoreboard. Yay. All right. So I'm going to reset that. We have really just one more thing today. And that is I also want to display the lives. Right? There's something happening with the lives as well. So I'm going to bring over another one of those text string boxes. And I'll bring over another math plus block right here. Cool. And this is going to be lives. And I'm going to put colon. Oops, I want an S there. Colon, space. I'm leaving an empty space after the colon on purpose. You wouldn't have to. I'm doing that on purpose. And then this will have, the other half of the plus block will not have quotation marks because I want the value of the variable there. So that's two different things, right? If it has quotation marks, it's just going to give you exactly what's inside the quotation marks. If you don't have quotes, it's a variable and it gives you that value. All right, so I want this to be kind of lined up with the other one, so I'm going to go over 50, but it's going to have to be down lower. I'm going to guess like 70. That's a guess. Let's run it. Oh, it looks pretty good. Now, here's one thing that I want to tell you that we're just not going to worry about today. The way this is set up right now, if I hit red dots and I lose lives, I don't have anything to end the game. See, I just ran to lives 0, and if I hit another red dot, now I'm at -2 and -3 and -4. Don't worry about ending the game today. That's not really part of what we're doing. I mean, you could if you want to. If you just feel like it and you know how to do it, then you could go ahead and do it. But that's not really a part of what we're doing today. This is just what you see right here is what we're after. I have created a situation. Let's review this real quick. I'm going to go ahead and reset this. And notice that every time I touch a green dot, I get a point. And every time I touch a red dot, I lose a life. And it's showing up right there on the screen. I can see it keeping track of what's happening. So let's review everything that we did real quick. Up here, I set up variables to keep track of score and lives. All right, down here, this is at line 44 for me. It might not be same line number for you, but I have this little conditional thing checking to see did the player touch the green dot. And if he did, I get a point and it gets reset to the top. Down here at line 53, I have did the player touch the red dot, the bad dot. If he did, loses a life, reset to the top. And then down here at 61 through 65 is all of my stuff that, okay, here's how I can make it show up on the screen. It's like a scoreboard. That's kind of what the point of the program today is create a scoreboard. But all of this other code, like the if and all that, that's making the scoreboard kind of happen. It's keeping track of the data that's going to be displayed by the scoreboard. All right, so this is what we're shooting for here today, setting up a little scoreboard with our little alien that is catching and avoiding dots. All right, it is your turn. Fist bump, good luck.